Welcome to Eureka Street Crypto. This is my anti-professional crypto channel. I'm just a barely sane dude who fell down the cryptocurrency rabbit hole. This channel is my fumbling attempt to communicate myself outside my own head about my journey in the crypto space. It is basically my brain dump. None of this is actual financial advice. Good morning, everybody. I'm Eureka John, and you're at Eureka Street Crypto, broadcasting live on YouTube from Leander, Texas. It is 10:45 in the morning, March 12th, 2022. This is my show. It used to be daily, but I don't do it daily anymore, but I do it a lot. And this is basically me documenting my crypto journey. Good, bad, and ugly. It is what it is. And I have explored pretty much all aspects of crypto, and new aspects of it are developing every single day. And along that road and along that journey, I've joined DAOs, I've talked to people, I've gotten feedback on my videos, some good criticism, some terrible criticism. It is what it is. And I've met some really cool people. And as you may have seen lately, if you've been following, you might have seen some guests come on my show. And one of these guests I have with me here today, iSpeakNerd. And I met iSpeakNerd in the BanklessDAO. And I've been a big part of the BanklessDAO since it started. I've really enjoyed my time and the work that I've done there, the people that I've met there. It's an amazing place. And iSpeakNerd has also come in, and he's one of the contributors to the podcast Hatchery, and iSpeakNerd is also working on developing his own show through the podcast Hatchery. And he's also done some episodes of his own podcast revolving around crypto and gaming. And he seems to be well versed in the subject. And I thought, man, this would be a really cool topic, especially with a lot of the recent developments going on in the gaming space and the crypto world and the merging of them both. And couldn't think of a better person to talk to than iSpeakNerd here. So welcome to the show, iSpeakNerd. You want to give us a little synopsis and how you came to be here and how you came into crypto and all that good stuff?
Well, how much time do we have?
Yeah, I mean, take your time. Do what you got to do. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Hey, well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, John.
Yeah.
But yeah, I fell down the crypto rabbit hole maybe a year ago, just over a year ago, back in like February of 2021, which feels like so much farther than a year ago, so much longer. But yeah, just like I'd heard about Bitcoin a couple of times. It popped up on my radar. I think the first time I heard about Bitcoin was in 2013.
Okay.
Something like that.
That's
And of
early.
course, yeah, early.
Bitcoin
And then of
standards.
course
Yeah.
just wrote it off. It was like, oh, people are just trading it on Silk Road. Okay, whatever. I don't need this. But a couple more times, and then finally dug into it when a lot of people did when like when Tesla bought in, and just like, oh, okay, like this big company's buying into. Fine, I'll actually go read the white paper this time and actually dig into it, and like um, spent many nights staying up late reading things and trying to understand things, because I think with crypto is like to give myself a baseline for how to understand things is like I really had to build a foundation of just like topics and like cryptography, and like what's a private key, like public and private key pairs, and like some of the crypto economic systems, like what's a block reward, like what is blockchain, how does this work, and like it's just a whole bunch of a whole bunch of stuff that's built. Like we're what, 12 years into this, 13 years into this
Yeah.
now. And so the depth has been built up with this thing, and I really started at the foundation trying to learn those things, on my nights and weekends, reading up on stuff, watching YouTube. Coin Bureau was really helpful, and then once I started
Guy.
trying to get into
Yeah.
DeFi, was Finematics is a fantastic
Oh
YouTube
yeah.
channel.
Yeah. He's awesome.
And then I've always been a gamer my whole life, and I found a game in late May of 2021, after the initial crash from whatever 64K or something Bitcoin.
Mhm.
That is this game, Coin Hunt World, where it's basically Pokemon Go, but it pays you in Bitcoin and Ethereum for playing. Um, and that was something I really understood. It's like, okay, like an obvious game here where there's like simple mechanics. I don't have to deal with trying to trade and like deal with the emotional stress of like, the buying and selling, and like, oh, but you want to hold on to it, but it's going to decrease. And like, as a early rider in the bull market, that was too much for me, man.
Yeah, yeah.
um and so I went down the rabbit hole on that game and just became really involved in that community. And that got me started in looking into more games and like play to earn games, and found out about games like Axie. I think I heard about even before it really took off, before AXS was released. And of course I didn't buy in because I'm a doof. And so I missed that pump. But the just learning about the Axie ecosystem and the way they kind of like built up their own internal economy with these game things. Found out about looked into a couple other play to earn games as well. And then just since then, in like December of last year, started my own podcast. Started trying to figure out, going down the rabbit hole on DAOs, and this whole thing, like joined BanklessDAO and got overwhelmed immediately.
Yeah.
Went away and tried to come back. And it was just it's just been one rabbit hole after another, rabbit hole,
Mhm.
with this stuff. But because I spent that time building that initial foundation of knowledge, in this space, is like it's enabled me to kind of find these access points and see how everything kind of connects.
Mhm.
Even if I don't, um, even if I'm not participating in a lot of this stuff, I feel like I have a really good like kind of basis for being able to comprehend this stuff.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
It's
that was a really long
no,
explanation
that's
there.
good. You covered a lot of good stuff. I'd like to unpack one part of that for you, is that you learned all the foundations beforehand. You learned what is a blockchain, what is a consensus mechanism, what is the private keys and public keys. That seems to be like it used to be the necessary place to start learning about
Used to
cryptocurrency.
be.
Yeah, not so much anymore. What do you think has changed? I mean, a lot of people are now coming into games, and they're coming from the top down rather than the bottom up. Do you think that's bad, or indifferent?
What do you mean coming in from top down for
As far
games?
as people not learn about the foundations of blockchain,
Oh,
because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and now people are coming from the top down because they're coming in through things like games and NFTs. So and then they don't know that the first thing about a blockchain. So before it seemed like such a nerdy thing to do to be in the blockchain. You're like, yeah, well, hold on. You'd be like, what is this Bitcoin all about? Well, let me explain to you about consensus mechanisms, and let me explain to you about cryptography. No, it's not like that way anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely with the rise of NFTs we saw in 2021. Absolutely. Is like it's provided this new access point for a lot of people, because I think with with crypto, with anything, you really need, to learn a new thing, you need to be able to relate it to something you already understand.
Hmm.
And so the way crypto used to be back in like when Ethereum was created, like when the white paper was written in like 2014, 2015, it was like heavily tech based. Like you had to really understand the cryptography and some of the math to really be able to talk about these things, because it hadn't been built up to a level and things created within this tech stack that
Hmm.
people could understand. Versus like NFTs now, we're seeing with for games, like the obvious one for NFTs is like PFP art projects or digital art projects. But now we're starting to see like and the real power in NFTs is the community and being able to create that in culture in your community, and like being able
Hmm.
to gate gate access to your community with these digital items. um, and so we see that with all kinds of NFT projects, and like this desire to create like an in club. People understand buying art. People understand buying collectibles. People understand buying music. um, it's like and so it's created this tech stack has grown far enough that we've opened up this hole up here at the top level that people can now access because they can relate it to this other stuff that they already understand. Like, collecting NFTs, is collecting Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
You're buying, trading. Each one has its own metadata, its own like specifics of what it can do in whatever systems that you bring it into, and like people can understand that they can relate it to something they already know, and they don't have to start from the bottom with these things. Some people still do, most don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely interesting, and like and we also saw this. So not only is blockchain gotten to that point, but we've seen like other kinds of games also build up these same kind of like internal economy structures
Hmm.
as well. Like, if for people who played World of Warcraft, um, we saw the like almost professionalization of World of Warcraft players, with like people who would get paid in WoW gold to lead
Mm.
raids and organize clans, and so that's basically like kind of early DAOs, but within that game structure
Yeah.
only. And maybe not DAOs because it's not really decentralized. It was that's sort of decentralized anyway. But it's this alternative money that people were using, because it wasn't dollars, it was WoW gold. But you could sell your WoW gold for actual money that people would pay on, some offsite. So you could earn inside of this game economy and then sell it somewhere else to use in the wider economy. And so it's this, again, it's the same kind of thing that you can do with crypto. It's like now you can work in crypto and work in a DAO and get paid in like Ether or Bitcoin, or the DAO token, whatever your choice is. You can get paid in that for doing work, and then you can take that and go trade it, at an exchange or whatever, an off ramp from crypto
Hmm.
back into dollars, so that you can deal with your real world, and you can pay your landlord for rent and
Yeah.
whatever, pay for your coffee down the street, like do all these things. And you can earn inside of this weird internal economy and then take it out to deal with the real world. But you don't, like, in some places you don't even have to do that. Like
Hmm.
El Salvador, you can like pay everything in Bitcoin now,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's
I heard
required.
Mexico is about to go Bitcoin as well. Yeah. So we'll see. A lot
It's
of
a
countries are considering it.
it's a
You know,
wild and wacky world, man.
yeah, yeah. I mean, back to the first question. A lot of people, you had to explain to them the foundations, and a lot of people joined crypto because they were super into the ideals of decentralization, and the philosophy behind it, the libertarian ideology. And then now it's now that gaming has come into play, people don't seem to be aware of or even care about decentralization in a lot of places, and I'm wondering how that may affect crypto gaming, is
It's
because
definitely
decentralization doesn't seem to be the top priority anymore for a lot of the, and especially when you look at chains like Solana and stuff like that.
Solana, Polygon's had some of the same issues as well. It's a Ethereum side chain, and like BSC, like we're seeing all these kinds of things where Solana does have their own tech stack. They developed that like themselves with doing all that. So props to them. But like BSC, they literally just forked Ethereum and then increased the
Yeah.
block size and like decreased the number of validators, and then boom, there's BSC.
Hmm.
Binance Smart Chain for the folks at home. But the yeah.
Like for instance,
Then
Pancake Swap still has a bunch of Uniswap hyperlink extensions in there. They didn't even bother changing the names.
just Control H, guys. Come on. Uh, the yeah, the issue, or the core issue, I think, for a lot of blockchains as we move towards a more globalized adoption is the blockchain trilemma. Is like, there's the three things that people find that you have to that you really want. You want something that's scalable, so it can deal with a lot of stuff. You need something that's super secure, and you want something that's super decentralized, developing out of this core ethos for cryptocurrency. And so you have those three things, but in order to achieve any two of them, you tend to have to sacrifice one.
Mm.
So like with Binance, they wanted scalable, so fast transactions. They wanted it fast and cheap, scalable. What did I say? Secure. Um, and decentralized. So they really got rid of decentralized, and by decreasing the number of validators in order to speed it up and increase the block size. So they got those two, but it's not decentralized at all. It's
Yeah.
like, I think there's like 10,
Yeah.
11 validators
Yeah,
or
and it's
something like
all
that.
owned by Binance pretty much, so
Yeah,
it's centralized.
it's absolutely centralized. And Ethereum is struggling right now with the scalability, because they're keeping to the original cryptocurrency ethos of being decentralized and secure. So they're holding
Mhm.
on to those two, and they're struggling to achieve the scalable part right now,
Yeah,
which is
it's
why
slow as hell.
slow, and then it's expensive. It's expensive
Yeah.
to transact on Ethereum. It's gotten much better in the last like month since the
Mhm.
last crash. I think I paid like
Yeah.
$6, six
Yeah.
bucks to purchase ENS like 2 days ago. Um, if you're going to be around an Ethereum, guys, get an ENS. If you're planning to
Yes.
stick around, get an ENS. The Ethereum name service. That's the .eth after your name, guys. But yeah, it's for pretty much all of 2021, and for a big part of like January, February. There's this narrative around, oh, ETH's terrible because it's so expensive, and like, yes, that's true, but you have to realize it's expensive because so many people are using it, and
That's
like,
right. Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
expensive because it was designed that way. It's expensive
Mhm.
because the cost to use it depends on the demand, so the amount of people trying to use it,
Yeah.
because it's basically supply and demand for the gas price, which is variable. If a lot of people are trying to use it, then it just to to get earlier into the line of your transactions, you have to spend more to jump ahead in the line.
Mhm.
And so if you have enough people trying to do that, the gas price just shoots up
I
and up
mean,
and up and up.
you would think that Harmony and Avalanche and all these other blockchains that would have the exact same issue once they started getting the same traffic that Ethereum does, and they wouldn't have the decentralization that Ethereum has. So you'd be paying just as much if they had the same traffic. That
Yeah, and that's a
Yeah.
narrative that a lot of these ETH killers are coming along. And in case you guys can't tell, I'm definitely in the like 60-70% Ethereum maximalist from here, if you can't tell from this conversation. But yeah, a lot of those so-called ETH killers don't have anywhere near the same kind of volume of transaction volume, so amount of people trying to use the network, and they would again struggle with the same kind of issues that Ethereum struggles with if they were dealing with the same amount of traffic.
Mhm.
um, there's some particularly innovative tech out there. Like, I'm really interested in seeing and keeping an eye on Hedera,
Oh
um,
yeah, Phantom.
which
It's the people's Hedera.
which is they have a hash graph technology. So it's
Yeah,
the whole thing about like you can have they basically have sharding.
DAG
Currently
technology,
is basically
directed
how I
acyclic graph technology. Yeah,
yeah.
and
Um,
Phantom calls it lachesis. Yeah, but it's the same thing. Yeah.
but yeah, this basically they've implemented sharding, which is on the Ethereum roadmap after the merge now, where basically sharding allows uh, multiple basically parts of the chain to run in multiple like basically run in parallel. They're parallelizing the
Mhm.
blockchain because previously everything was a blockchain. It was in a line, in one straight linear line, but sharding allows multiple branches to be running at the same time, and then they're all connected back together through math that I don't quite understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's actually no, I don't understand the math at all. But that's on the roadmap for Ethereum. But there are
Mhm.
other chains that currently have implementations of that already going. Like Hedera's
Zilliqa.
Zilliqa, Hedera is one of them.
Yeah.
And so I think Elrond also
Yeah.
has sharding already. Um, so there's these cool technologies that are in the works, and like Ethereum is having to be very 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 careful in making changes because it has been such a success. It has built up so much. There's like billions and billions of dollars in the Ethereum ecosystem economy. Like, they have to be very very careful about any changes they make, because there's so much at stake for them with anything. And like you guys hear about, you know, smart contract hacks all the time, and like we hear about all sorts of stuff going on in DeFi with economic attacks. Well, just like imagine if the actual blockchain protocol had one of those things, and suddenly everything within that blockchain is at risk, as opposed to just, you know, one particular DeFi hack. Well, now it's all of Ethereum getting hacked. It's like,
Yeah.
um, so they're being very, very, very slow with making changes on all this stuff, but it is in the works. They are working on stuff. If you guys listen to a lot of the podcasts, they have their researchers come on and talk. Listen to Unchained is a really great podcast for people who are just starting to get into stuff as well. It's hosted by Laura Shin. She's a journalist, but does these, you know, pretty high level overviews or high level interviews with different founders and people in the space, and really, really great stuff. But um, yeah, getting back to the the question at hand, the blockchain trilemma of those three things: the scalability, security, and decentralization. And typically, up to this point, we've had to pick two of those three things. And so Ethereum's struggling to work on the scalability part of things while maintaining decentralization and security, versus other chains have sacrificed decentralization for the scalability and the security part. And so that's why we've seen all these ETH killers rise up and, you know, become popular and have this, you know, seems like kind of overnight success in 2020 and 2021. BSC, like, oh my God, that thing, BSC needs
Yeah.
to die. But it's what is it? Binance scam chain.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these gaming companies are coming in and they're realizing how slow Ethereum is, but they need the security of it. So, like Axie Infinity, for instance, has developed its own chain called Ronin.
Ronin.
Yeah, to be able to operate on and do all these quick live transactions. Because whenever you're doing things like gaming and being in the metaverse, there are tons of transactions happening all the time, and they have to be quick in order for it to operate properly. And so this is where a lot of these other chains come into play, I would think. But they don't have the security. Yeah. So like Polygon relies on Ethereum for security. Ronin relies on Ethereum for security. So that's what you call the layer 2 solution. So I guess that's the little sacrifice you make. But a lot of people, the gamers, don't know this. They just, you know, starting to see the economy forming, and or I mean, okay. I want to talk about, I guess, a little bit about the hesitancy of gamers, the true gamers, to adopt the crypto space and allow that into gaming. Like, what's the big deal? You know, why don't they want that to happen?
It's a great question. I think. Thank you, by the way, for trying to keep me on track with this, because I'm going all over the place here. But yeah, we're seeing the people who are used to like PC gaming and console gaming. We're not seeing the same kind of adoption of these blockchain games that like Axie Infinity, as you said. And I think a lot of it is this kind of and I think a lot of it's ignorance, and like there's a lot of stuff floating around about crypto, and like, oh, it's full of scams, and it's all going to zero, and it's only number go up, and like there are a lot of scams in crypto.
Yeah.
There are.
Yeah.
Um,
I've been
there
scammed. So.
there are people who are here only for number go up. That's true. Um, a lot of these things are going to go to zero, I think. Like I think currently blockchain, and maybe we've hit that point right now, whereas like the original Web 1, you know, the .com bubble that we had in like 1998, whereas like everybody and their mama had was trying to make a website, and people were throwing millions of dollars at like people to just make bullshit static websites with no like product or market plan or business plan or anything like that. And like, so we are going to see a lot of blockchains fail, I think,
Yeah.
at some point very soon. Not very soon. At some point in the future, there will be a culling, shall we say, of the blockchains as things die. But for the ones that make it through that, like think about what happened with Amazon. It's
Yeah.
like Amazon went on and is now one of the the biggest companies in the world. And what is it? Bezos is the richest or second richest after Musk now.
I don't know.
All right. Anyway,
That's
he
pretty
has more
close. Yeah. I
he has
mean,
more
at that
money than
point,
God.
is it really even competition at that point?
And I'm not saying that all blockchains are going to do that. That's not what's going to happen. But the growth and the adoption of Amazon, I think, is the real thing to be looking at here, and like how much people are going to be using it and finding the use for it once it becomes more adopted technology. And like
Mhm.
this, people are always nervous around new technology. Like
Yeah.
it took whatever 2 generations for for cars to become entrenched. Two
Mhm.
generations of people. Like the internet is like now the internet is like ubiquitous, but that's like we've been through 2 generations of people like Gen X, Gen Y. Now we're into Gen Z for the
Mhm.
internet to become ubiquitous, and it's like these ideas don't. New ideas don't become adopted because people change their minds
Mm.
for most of those people. Some people
Mhm.
do, but most people don't. New ideas become adopted because people grow up already familiar with those ideas.
Yeah.
So again, that's why I'm saying it takes 2 generations for any of these things to become, ubiquitous. And I think we will see blockchains become ubiquitous, not necessarily for everything, but for some things we are going to see them like definitely take the lead on these things. And I think the Web3 ownership economy is like it's unlocking so much cool stuff in the way individual creators can not have to rely on Patreon, which
Mm.
is taking like. By the way, I just looked into Patreon like a week and a half ago. They take 8% off the top of
Wow.
everything. Yeah, plus another like 2% and 10 cents on it to do processing fees on credit card payments. So you're literally losing like 10% just straight to Patreon right away
Mm.
on everything that you donate, which is insane. Uh, and I think that's slightly cheaper than what PayPal was doing and all this stuff. So there's this kind of like almost there's this kind of race to the bottom for these individual companies, but the startup costs it keeps competitors from joining that space.
Mhm.
Um, but now we're seeing you can create the same kind of thing where there's this kind of membership exclusive community. You can create that same kind of thing with blockchain with like
Mhm.
something like Radical or creating your own NFT project and then gating a Discord using that NFT with tools like Collabland or Guild.xyz.
Mhm.
And it's this code based stuff that's not these subscription models where
Yeah.
it's a one-time cost up front, which is actually better for the creator because then you don't have your income spread out over 12 months where you get
Mhm.
$100. It's like no, you just sell an NFT and you get $100 up front. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it gives so much more flexibility to creators in the ownership economy.
Yeah,
And
and then the consumer or the person becoming the member does not have to give over all their information, and all they got to do is just buy an NFT with their crypto wallet. No
you just
information given over.
you just
Yeah,
need your address, you just need a wallet. Yeah.
yeah,
You don't have to give out your email, so there's no
yeah.
honeypots of information created in centralized locations. So your email is not going to get stolen from, uh, you know, I don't know who's gotten hacked. Fucking everybody, Target or Home Depot or whatever. So that information can't be stolen from these honeypots. We like, oh,
Hmm.
it's, um, but but all that stuff, the benefits of it are lost kind of in the general discourse around crypto right now.
Yeah.
In terms of the way the media reports on it, again, is just like what do people see in the media? People see number go up, number go down. They see the hacks
Yeah.
that get talked about. Um,
There's just sometimes there's this like cringy like sketch, just slimy factor about some people in crypto treating it kind of like an MLM, pyramid scheme. They're just kind of like, "Hey, you want to join my crypto project?" You're just like,
hey man,
"Oh,
you
get
want to
away
buy
from
some
me, dude."
crypto?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um,
Like having some kind of weird Tupperware party.
Yeah. And then there's also the environmental concerns is
Mm-hmm.
a big thing because I think a lot of people, especially young people who have seen, who are seeing the destruction of the environment. And I just saw a news article recently is like the Amazon is like really close to an inflection point of becoming a desert, supposedly based on some research that I don't know.
Hmm.
I just read the headline to be honest. But
At least you're honest about it.
people are seeing this, and I mean we're feeling the effects of we're seeing the effects of global climate change already. Like I mean there's like all sorts, even we're seeing insane like snowstorms and like crazy cold fronts in places. We're seeing like crazy heat in other places or at different times of the year. So we are seeing global climate change happening from human activity and the use of fossil fuels, and we are seeing that, and that is a concern. That is absolutely something that is happening and is an issue. And so with blockchains that are proof of work, like Bitcoin, Ethereum is currently still proof of work. Those things take up a lot of energy, and like it's it's a debate. There are people who are more on the apologist side of things and say, oh, like yeah, Bitcoin takes up a lot of energy, but a lot of that comes from renewable energy, and like how much energy is used in the whole global financial system, and like yes, there is a whole lot of energy tied up in that and keeping the lights on at banks and running all the individual computers and mainframes and servers and for our global financial system. But in the meantime, we're creating this alternate thing that is also using up a ton of energy, and it's intentionally using up a ton of energy because that's its security. It's like proof of work. That's the
Hmm.
work that comes into this is the energy use. And in the US, that we are seeing really, really cool, innovative ways of using or reusing energy or using clean energy um, in the US, but in a lot of other places in the world, like Kazakhstan, Russia is a big one. We're seeing a lot of use of, again, increased use in fossil fuels to mine Bitcoin, and like people are burning coal like crazy in Kazakhstan, particularly right now with the outflow from China because of
Hmm.
China banned everything officially and shut down all their crypto stuff, all their crypto servers, and a lot of people left China. What 6 months ago,
A lot of them
June.
came to Texas.
A lot of them came to Texas, yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of them also went to Kazakhstan
Yeah.
and those other areas that are closer, uh,
Hmm.
and we've seen an increase in the use of fossil fuels for those things. So um, it's the proof of work uses a lot of energy for this, and that energy use is um, tied to climate change in people's minds, and they don't see the benefits of these things right now. Again, because the benefits that we've mentioned already aren't really part of the typical media narrative. So it's all just bad news, bad news, bad news about this stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and so gamers are concerned, minimum concerned, maximum like fucking hate
Yeah.
blockchain for these reasons. And
The NFTs are going to destroy the environment.
hey man, NFTs destroyed the environment.
I've heard it.
Can't you just right click save, man? What's up with
Yeah.
NFTs? You can just save it. What's going on? I don't get it.
Yeah. And it just, yeah. And then other people are like, shut up and put on your Oculus and forget about the outside world.
Yep. Um, and so there there's those environmental concerns is big for gamers, along with a lot of this stuff, and haven't seen the benefits of these. And a lot of the blockchain games are rudimentary is not the right word, but they're not. They've developed in a different way. Blockchain games are a lot more about like creating an internal economy for these things, which if you're not used to doing that, if you're just used to playing, Call of Duty, and you buy your game and you buy your console and then you just play your game, you shoot, kill people, whatever, and that's it. That's all your interactions with it. Then that's not that's not the experience you get with blockchain games now.
Yeah.
Um, like with blockchain games, you're much more involved if you want to get ahead in these things. You need to be much more involved in, like, buying and selling of whatever these assets are. You're going to be buying and selling whatever the in-game currency is. You're going to be paying real close attention to everything that's happening with the game development. You need to be learning about blockchain, so that you can understand, the side chain, Ronin side chain for Axie versus transacting on Ethereum mainnet. Because why? Well, because it's like 50 times cheaper,
Hmm.
and you can't afford to be doing that stuff on mainnet. And we have seen a lot of these games that become really big, or rather, they become really big once or they are allowed to grow larger once they have implemented some sort of layer 2 solution, which,
Hmm.
again, a lot of these things still depend on Ethereum, because NFTs originally came out on Ethereum. That was well,
Yeah.
the idea of NFTs was before Ethereum, but the first, like, real use of the tech was on the Ethereum mainnet.
Hmm.
And so we've seen side chains. We talked about Ronin, but there's also like Immutable X, is
Yep.
used by, I think, Gods Unchained, and a bunch of others for, again, these like NFT game ecosystems.
Built on
Polygon,
Starkware too. Yeah.
Starkware, Starknet, is developing stuff. Like, we're seeing a lot of this stuff develop on layer twos in order to bring the price down on these things, because, again, gamers gamers want that. Well, gamers don't want the necessarily the decentralized part. Gamers don't want that
Yeah.
decentralized. Gamers want, secure. You don't want your stuff to get stolen, and you
Hmm.
want your transactions to go through, and they want it to
Yeah.
be done fast.
Yeah. They don't care
uh,
about the ideals of decentralization.
mm-mm.
I mean, a lot of times the gamers, yeah, they are already, playing these amazing games with these amazing economies already there, lightning speeds, doing really cool things, these super intricate, complex in-game economies. And then suddenly comes along these crypto gamers, just kind of outsiders building some clunky,
With
architecture
all
and
their
things.
pixelated
Yeah,
profile pictures.
it's
What
like
you call this art? What is this? What is this crap? I could do this.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's understandable why gamers who don't necessarily care about or understand the decentralization aspect would suddenly, yeah, want to adopt that. And then on top of that, too, gamers, they get home from work or whatever they're doing, and they come into this space, and they just don't want to mess with it, all these lofty ideals. They want to play their damn game, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's hard to care about something you don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that ignorance factor in these things, and like you said, there's no real motivating factor to understand the decentralization from the gamer for the gamers currently. There's no real incentive for them to learn about this stuff besides,
Yeah.
like, oh, it's interesting, or you want to move into doing other things in the space.
Yeah. They're like,
Um,
cool story, bro. And then they just
um, Yeah, and like you said, it's like people, work, do whatever their thing is, that, is soul crushing, and they hate their life, and they just want to escape into some world. Um, and it's a lot to think about, these things, like these big lofty ideals of decentralization and the understanding the tech. It's confusing. It's a lot of
Mhm.
stuff you got to understand, and that's a lot of brain power. It's a lot of work to understand that. And why would I want to do that? I just want to play my game and shut
Yeah.
off the world for a second. Like, I just want to escape, man. I don't want
Yeah.
to think.
Although once the game is over and they've beat the game or whatever they're doing, and they have all this, like, let's say $10,000 worth of crap, skins and weapons and land, and how what are they gonna do with it?
Yeah, that's the thing with, like, NFT games, is like, it's an NFT, it's a non-fungible token. You actually own it, if you have that, and you can take that skin, gun, character, whatever item of land. You can actually export it from that game, take it with you, because it's tied to your wallet address. It's not tied to your account at Ubisoft or whatever.
Mhm.
It's attached to your wallet address, 0x573 whatever, AB whatever, like, long ass hexadecimal number. Um, and so you can take that with you. And because it's NFT, these NFTs have standards. There's token standards. There's ERC 721, and then there's ERC 1155. Is these token standards? When I say token standard, you can think of it like like USB. Okay, Universal Serial Bus. Damn it. Okay, a USB cable. I don't know, is that showing up? A
There you
USB
go.
cable is standard. It's a standardized thing that basically every device except for fucking Apple, because fucking
Yeah.
Apple, has USB ports because it's a standardized thing. I mean, it's universal serial bus, but it's it's taken a while for that standard to become a thing. And if you've been in tech for a while, you used to remember like FireWire and
Oh
like
yeah. S
serial
video.
ports and parallel ports and
Yeah.
all this stuff. Um, but it's a standardized thing that you can kind of expect to find a usable connection to a computer anywhere. A computer, it's very weird for a computer not to have USB ports
Mm-hmm.
at this point. Because it's a standard, and that's the same thing with these NFT tokens. They're written to these standards so that they are interoperable. Sorry, that's the point I was trying to get at here.
Yeah.
You can take your NFT and go to a different game with it, and um, it's still able to work in that other game system because these things are interoperable. Which isn't to say your gun might do your gun might do different things, or might not be usable as a gun if you take it from
Yeah.
a shooter game and take it to something like Decentraland. You might not be able to actually shoot people and kill people with
Mhm.
that, but maybe your character can still carry around that thing, and it's
Or you
still
could just liquidate it to Ethereum and then just be able to have that cash, where
take it with
previously you
you.
would just have to just let it leave it.
Yeah, you can take it with you, and because you own it, you can sell it at some point in the future, and
Yep.
sell it not just within the game, but you can sell that onto the direct marketplace, the
Yeah.
outside world, and so you basically get a instead of trading your super awesome legendary plus 18 sword of truth from WoW, instead of selling it for WoW gold inside of WoW, you take
Yeah.
it out into some place like OpenSea or some other NFT marketplace, and you can sell it for Ethereum
Yeah.
instead,
Yeah.
or
And
sell
then
it for
anybody
stable
wanting to go
coins.
play World of Warcraft can immediately buy that before they even go to the game and be like, "Hey, you really want this sword? If you're going to go play that game, here, I'm going to sell it to you." Yeah.
Yeah, and this is something with Coin Hunt World. Actually, the that game that really got me deeper into this stuff is it's still not live. It's still not live, but we've been promised that the players will be able to export the characters and the items that you create
Mm,
inside of Coin Hunt World. You'll be able to
okay.
export those as NFTs to some NFT marketplace and do exactly what you're talking about. If I sell those to the outside world, I am cashing out. So I'm
Yeah.
getting rid of my item for cash, but that's allowing somebody from the outside world to buy in at the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
time.
exactly. And it redefines the entire idea of what a job is. It gamifies jobs and gamifies work to where you can get paid to go in there and basically advance levels and farm and all these items and the gold and whatever, and then you can take that out your harvest and put it on the marketplace, and you can earn a living that way.
Yeah, and I mean,
It's nuts to think about. I remember, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or a long time ago, I first heard about the concept of somebody fishing in World of Warcraft and being able to make money off of selling that fish to other people, and or building up characters and selling them on eBay and the gray market and everything like that. So this is not a new concept. People were already doing this before. How was it done back then?
well, like you just said, is like the World of Warcraft, I think, is probably the biggest example of this, where
Hmm.
people could, like you said, fish and sell for in-game currency, or sell on, as you said, the gray market, meaning, okay, as opposed to a black market, which is explicitly not allowed. A gray
Yeah.
market is more of like, it's not official, it's not approved, but they kind of just ignore it.
Hmm.
The officials kind of ignore it and let it happen for whatever reason. Um, it Because it makes more people play your game. That's why they ignore it. Um, or it's if you were to shut it down, it disincentivizes people playing your game. But yeah, people could sell usually for a discount on whatever that item's worth. And oh my God, John, I think your video is going out.
What? No, my
Oh,
video.
your video went weird on me.
Oh,
You're
sorry.
back.
No,
You're
that's
back
all
now.
good on
You're
my
back.
end.
Um, the economy. So they took those things, and instead of selling it inside of the game marketplace for WoW gold, they would sell it on this gray market external site for dollars,
Yeah.
usually dollars, I would assume. Um, but usually at a discount. In other words, if I'm selling, say I'm selling again this plus 18 Sword of Truth, it's worth, I don't know, 1,000 gold in World of Warcraft. I could sell that to somebody in World of Warcraft for this in-game currency, or I could sell it on this external marketplace for dollars. However,
Mhm.
that dollars is worth, I guess less or more depending. I'm not sure. Actually, I guess it depends on how many people want to buy into the game at the time.
And it's
But
also
based on some,
complex. You have to get some people that are just on the same level that you are in order to find those buyers. And it's a pain in the ass basically. And the NFTs open it up to a wider audience and make it legal.
make it legal, make it standardized. You can
Mhm.
program in from the creator side of things. You can program in a resale cost or a
Yeah.
resale percentage. So if so that every time that item gets sold on the secondary market or tertiary market, then 10% or 15% or whatever of the sale price goes to the creator of the NFT. So you get an ongoing revenue stream that way as a creator. In addition to that, which is so cool, by the way, because before, if we think about art, like think about how much the Mona Lisa costs. It's like, I don't know,
Hmm.
some number of millions of dollars. But if that were to be sold, who does that money go to? Well, it goes to the person who owns the Mona Lisa before, right?
Yeah.
Exclusively. Well, what if 10% of that sale cost went instead to Leonardo da Vinci? Now he's dead,
Or
but
the
maybe
estate of Leonardo da Vinci.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, and so that would provide that ongoing revenue stream every time that item gets sold in secondary, because with these items getting sold and resold, it's like typically the blue chip ones are going to keep going up in price, with things like if we're thinking profile pictures, things like Bored Ape Yacht Club,
Hmm.
the mutant apes, cool cats, NFTs, crypto coven.
Yeah.
A lot of these things are just going up, and so every time there's a resale, it's just more and more money going back to the creators of those things, which is so fucking cool. Um, sorry, I'm getting off topic. The original question, remind me what your question was.
I don't know. We've gone
All right.
pretty far, but I mean, I don't know. I want to get on to another point too. Is a play to earn. I saw a statistic that, or a projection that it's going to be $268 billion by 2025. Trying to figure out where this money is coming from and who's it going to be paid to, and then you know companies own these crypto games and they want to do it for a profit. Are there any truly open source games, and where would that money come from and go to? So I'm trying to figure out this whole circulation of money and how, who would get paid from this $268 billion projected in this industry.
Well, it's funny you mentioned circles, because I would also say, yeah, it's a circular economy. Um,
Mm.
a lot of these funds. So with these internal economies, the internal currency for these economies. Let's think about Axie for a second. Let's use Axie for an example. I think it's the most success. It's definitely the most successful of these NFT projects, but their internal currency is SLP.
Yeah.
Small Love Potion, I think, is what it stands for.
Yeah, I thought it was
But
Smooth Love Potion or Small Love. I mean,
I think it
I've
used to be
seen it.
Smooth, but they changed the
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
But it's some token that you earn from playing the game for winning fights in Axie,
Yeah.
basically. Um, so why would anyone buy this currency? Why is this currency worth anything then? Well, it's because you need to you destroy that currency in order to make new axes. So people are buying that currency to breed their axes. Well, why are they doing that? Well, they're trying to sell their axes to mostly not the internal players, because the internal players are trying to improve their axie games. They want to only buy certain kinds of axes.
Yeah.
But so who are they selling them to? Well, most of the time they're selling them to the outside people trying to come into this internal economy.
Okay.
So it does function a bit like that multi-level marketing that you described there, where people
Yeah.
are having to buy into this economy by purchasing these NFTs, which is not cheap, by the way, at all. Like to
No,
buy,
isn't it? It's cost you what, $1,000 or more just to buy the 3 axes necessary to start the game?
more than that,
Really? Wow.
to get a team of starter axes, each one's probably around like zero point 0.3 ETH or something like that now.
Oh, wow.
I think at least that's
Yeah,
what
which
it
is
was
about
last time I checked.
$500.
And you need
This
3 of them.
Yeah.
So it's zero point 0.9 ETH, which at current price it would be like
Mm.
2250,
Yeah.
$2,200 to start in Axie Infinity.
Wow.
Um, but this is thinking in dollar terms. So here's the thing
Yeah.
too with this. That's thinking in dollars. What if you're someone who had ETH before, who had a bunch of ETH because you've been around since 2017 or 2016. So you've got a nice bag of ETH, and it costs you 1 ETH to buy a team of Axies that you started with and you bought that ETH for $40 like
Mm.
4 years ago or something. So it's an internal economy, but it's based on this currency that we're still thinking about in dollar terms. But thinking about it in dollar terms doesn't necessarily make the most sense. It's better to
Yeah.
think about the Axie economy in terms of ETH rather than thinking about it in terms of dollars, which is why a lot of the times, again, you see like the Axie Genesis lots sold for some ungodly amount of dollars. Like I think it was like 40 million, $125 million for a plot of Genesis land in the Axie universe or something like that. But
Wow.
again, like divide 40 million by $4,000 at the time. So
Uh-huh.
it's, I don't know, it's still a lot of money, but it's not as much as you'd think. So I'm doing 40 million divided by 4,000 is 10,000 ETH.
Okay.
Which is a lot of ETH.
Still an
It's
assload
10,000
of
of it.
money.
It's a lot of ETH. But
Yeah.
if you bought that ETH a long time ago when it was a lot cheaper, then the cost it makes more sense.
Mhm.
Um, so we're seeing these internal economies inside of internal economies basically building up here
Yeah.
because we have the general ETH ecosystem and economy there, the like general crypto economy, and then we have the game economy inside of that, which makes more sense to reference this larger crypto ecosystem than to reference the even larger real world dollar system.
That
So
was one of my
it's
weirdest things when I first got into crypto is the whole inception idea of, because dollars to me was safe, and then oh,
wow.
you gotta change into, a stable coin or buy, Ethereum. And even from there you go a level deeper. You buy with Ethereum other cryptocurrencies. So it's scary for a new person to jump in. But I think whenever
Absolutely.
there's a game there and they see that they can actually use it, it's not as scary to new
Yeah,
people.
and like that startup cost is, like I said, is massive. Is like whatever, almost an ETH to start, which in dollar terms is like over $2,000 to start playing Axie. Um, which is why there's now basically high startup cost to basically jumpstart that internal economy at Axie. And allow people to earn an actual livable real world income level, not in the US, but in
Mhm.
developing countries like
The
Playtoearn
Philippines.
and Axie is massive in the Philippines.
Mhm.
Um, and like Brazil is really big in Play-to-Earn as well. But these high startup costs has allowed third parties to basically insert themselves as intermediaries into this economy, which again is interesting because now we basically have banks inside of these game economies.
Mhm.
Like I'm thinking like Yield Guild Games is one of them. Human DAO is another,
Yeah.
where they basically have these scholarship programs where for a 30% cut of your profits, they'll basically lend you the NFTs to get started in these internal
Yeah.
economies.
It's like taxi companies giving the car to the taxi driver, and then
That
they
is the
yeah,
best analogy I've heard for this. That
yeah,
is the best analogy, absolutely, because it's this for taxis, you have to buy the taxi medallion or registration
yeah.
or whatever, which is some ungodly amount of money for
Mhm.
an individual. So they have to, exactly, they rent it out from the taxi company,
Yellow
which has
cow.
the capital to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's another part of the reason why some people who have looked at this stuff are against these kind of models is you are um, basically becoming this kind of grind slave to
Yeah.
these systems. If you've bought in, once you reach your return on investment, which I actually don't know how long it takes to get to 1 ETH earned inside of the Axie economy. So that would be that gets you back to where you started, and then everything
Yeah.
after that is profit minus your real world costs and time and all that stuff. So I don't actually know those numbers. I haven't looked at that recently. But if you're doing it with a 30% cut, it's going to take you a lot longer to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
But I mean, it gets people started who wouldn't have the means. So it's kind of, I mean, it's capitalism at its finest in a in a weird sort of way. I mean, that's pretty much pure capitalism right
that is
there.
capitalism, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, and so again, that's part of the reason why some people don't like these. It's like, oh well, you're just becoming the new proletariat in these new
Yeah.
economies. Um, with the promise of you can become a bourgeoisie,
Yeah.
a capital owner. Sorry, this is getting back to Marxist ideas here, guys. Um, and
I
the
love going to these meta levels on my show. So don't worry. You're all good. You're in a safe place with that. I mean, yeah.
but the so that's why some people don't like these. But if the time to return on investment is low enough, if it is a livable thing that you can earn back quickly, which
Yeah.
last summer you could do this real quick with Axie, then it drives a lot of people to start, which again continues the cycle of bringing more people in, because like everything in these free market economies, it's supply and demand. So if you can
Yeah.
just drive up the demand side, your
Yeah.
prices whoop.
And if the
Um,
people that own these NFTs for lease start taking too much of the cut, then nobody's going to participate in the economy, you know? And so there's a constant push and a pull between that.
and that's part of the thing with the part of the thing with these things is a whole bunch of stuff in crypto is trying to achieve balance through free markets
Yeah.
and free market capitalism, which we don't have in the US, by the way. Like we say we're like, oh, we're the land of the free and the home of the and all this stuff. But our market system is not at all like free market
Oh,
capitalism. Not at all.
no.
There's so much protectionism that goes on,
Mhm.
and regulations change free markets again because okay, farming, like in the U.S. economy, farming is insane. It actually happens, guys. They
Mhm.
There's dairy subsidies, so they pay for people who produce milk, these farmers, to not produce milk, because
Mhm.
if they produced more, if they increased the supply, the price would fall for this milk. So to make up the cost, the government pays subsidies to these people so that they produce less, which keeps the price of milk up above this floor. But then you also can't have it above a certain level, so it's this constant like adjustment from the top
Yeah.
on how to do these things. The whole freaking ethanol economy, guys. The whole freaking like putting ethanol in your fuel. I don't know if okay. I don't know if you guys have actually read the labels. Whoa. I don't know if you guys have actually read the labels on your like on the gas stations. Like almost all of them say contains up to 10% ethanol.
Mhm.
Why the fuck is there ethanol in our gasoline? It's your engine's not meant to do that.
Mhm.
It's less efficient for your engine to burn that. It's like, why is there ethanol in your gas? Well, because the corn industry has gotten a ton of subsidies from the government to produce corn. Well, then
Mm.
there's a fuckload of corn. What do they do with it? Well,
Yeah.
they make corn syrup to put in all of our fucking food. They feed it to the cows, which cows aren't meant to eat corn.
Mhm.
Like they get like it's not good for them. They're meant to eat grass, and it's different. And then that's a whole separate thing.
Yeah.
Uh, and then they make fuel out of it. They make ethanol. Well, why do we need that? Cars don't run on ethanol. Well, then they put it as an additive into our gas to basically, in you're diluting the gas by adding ethanol to it.
Mm.
And obviously there is energy in the ethanol and
Yeah.
it does burn and combust the same way, but your engine's not meant to do that. Like It's a
Well,
whole fucking thing. Don't get me
yeah,
started
I
too
see
much on
what
this.
your point was though, is you were saying that, there's no
Thank you for
free
bringing me
market
back. Thank you for
capitalism.
bringing me
Yeah,
back.
and there's this constant flux back and forth between free market and regulations, and there's a need for both, I think.
That's where I was trying to go with that. Sorry. So my point here was that the U.S. is not free market. There's these price points that are set by the government. There's taxes that are added on and all this stuff. And I'm not against taxation. I'm not against adding to public goods when they're used for those things. My point here is that a lot of the stuff in crypto is like no taxes. In these economies, there's nothing, no taxes built into these economies, and there's no like set prices for anything that is set by a central authority because everything's decentralized. So what you
Hmm.
end up with is this floating price point for everything that's balanced between supply and demand. And
Yeah,
if one of them goes up, price changes, but then that incentivizes the supply to come back up, which brings prices back down. And so we get this crazy
yeah,
volatility in crypto from these things. The price swings so much because it's a free market balanced on supply and demand.
yeah.
And so we see these crazy fluctuations in crypto, which is how an actual free market economy works.
Yeah, and you
Like,
see a lot of experimental examples and extreme examples of it in the gaming economy, and that's one of the cool things about DAOs and crypto is it does allow you to experiment with a lot of different things without killing everybody.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
Um,
Well, we are at an hour. I don't know how quickly, how I can't believe we've been talking for an hour. It doesn't feel like it, but yeah, I normally don't let these shows go past 40 minutes, but we just have there's so much to talk about. I would love
this
for
is
you
an
to
interesting
come.
conversation, man.
Yeah, it is. I'd love for you to come back on at some point and us to have us continue this conversation. But to keep this as maybe a part one or something, I guess we can kind of put a pin in it here.
So we
Um,
don't make someone watch a 5-hour YouTube video. Yeah, that's probably
yeah,
good.
we're not Bankless HQ. Not that I hate Bankless HQ. I love Bankless HQ. I listen to it on my daily commute.
Here's the thing about their stuff. With anything, any content that you're producing on the internet, you have to balance things here. Well, what do you have to balance? It's not supply and demand you're balancing. You're balancing the value proposition for your content with the amount of effort and time it takes to engage with that content.
Yeah.
So for a show like Bankless, they have a very high value proposition. They're a well-known name in the space. People,
Hmm.
they have good content there. People know it's going to be good. They can basically charge more for your
Yeah.
time. They can require you to put in more time to engage with their content because the value proposition is higher.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good way to put it. But me, not so much.
Not yet, not yet.
Yeah. All right, man. So how can people get a hold of you, and what type of things do you like to talk about with people?
Oh man, I talk about all sorts of stuff crypto, but you can reach me on Twitter is at iSpeak_nerd, spelled the same way as it's on the screen. Just put an underscore in the middle of it. You can find me on Twitter talking about gaming and DAOs and crypto and all sorts of stuff. We actually have. I'm part of 3 organizations that have Gitcoin grants up right now. By the way, guys, which means that anything that you choose to donate, if you like this stuff, you can support 3 of the projects. WGMI is a community of community managers looking to help people develop more of their communities in the space and learn how to learn the strategies, tools, and tactics of doing community management in Web3. We've got the QB DAO, which is from this, again, Coin Hunt World game and basically trying to create wikis for the
QB
game content.
Cubie.
QB,
Okay.
CUBIE underscore
Okay.
DAO, creating wikis of game content and explaining the game content to the wider world, and then also educating the people who play those games on this crypto stuff and creating content for that. And then I'm also part of Bankless Academy, which is part of or an initiative out of Bankless DAO, and is looking to create a gamified on ramp for people in learning into crypto and gamifying this whole tech stack of learning in crypto, gamify that, give people badges for learning stuff, and make it a fun game system for learning. So check it out. Appreciate it. You can
Right on.
find that stuff from my Twitter as well.
Well, thanks a lot, iSpeakNerd, for coming on, and I definitely want to come back and do a part two of this episode. of this topic as well, and you're the perfect person to do it. So once again, thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the DAO.
Peace out, folks. Stay safe out there.